With a circling of wagons, has Lehman Brothers done enough to get Wall Street to call off the house? We've assembled a world-class lineup to find out.
We have the pros who know, our own Liz McDonald, along with Jack Gage of Forbes magazine, plus our Bulls and Bears, Bob O'Brien, Gary Kalpom, Peter Schiff, and Jonas Max Ferris. Bob O'Brien, call off the dogs or more trouble ahead?
What did they do today? They did absolutely nothing that we didn't know coming in. They're writing down assets. They're going to try and move things into a separate publicly held company. They're going to try and sell part of the asset management, but no deal has been struck. We have no idea what the value of the Lehman Brothers is. They've done absolutely nothing today except reveal that losses amounted to twice as much as Wall Street.
But, Jack, the good news is we're not hearing anything about a deal between Lehman and the government.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I think if I was Dick Fuld right now, I'd be waiting for a tap on my shoulder from Hank Paulson. So as long as that isn't happening, that sure is good news. And I think it also speaks to the fact that, you know, this company, Lehman Brothers, may be in better shape than people give it credit for. If it's not doing a deal at fire basement prices, there must be a reason for that. And whether it's they think they can get a better deal after slimming down their balance sheet for Neuberger Berman, or what the story is, that's something to consider.
Liz McDonald, as Bob O'Brien said, what did we hear today that we didn't know yesterday, except maybe the dividend news, which I hadn't heard about before. But look, you know, there are people swirling around this, both supporting it and not supporting it. But what is the bottom line? The cash flow problem there.
That's right, Liz. The cash flow problem is an issue, and why still pay a dividend when you need to raise a lot of capital? Liz, the big issue right now is that spin-off of the $25 billion to $30 billion of commercial real estate into that new company. The issue here is, can Lehman get the capital it needs to fund that new company? Some people say $8 billion it may need as a capital cushion for that. Lehman may still need to take an equity, it may need to put a capital infusion of its own money into that new unit, and if it does it above the 50% threshold, that could see more write-downs bleeding back onto its balance sheet. A surprising disclosure in the earnings conference call: future write-downs unlikely. I don't think so.
Peter, without acting like a vulture here, because we don't, you know, there are people whose lives and livelihoods are at stake here. What do you think its future is?
Lehman Brothers?
Yeah.
Well, I think they would go bankrupt, absent some type of government bailout. I think they have tens of billions of dollars of losses hidden in their balance sheet, maybe 50 billion or more. I think, you know, I don't think anybody would buy them. I think anybody who buys Lehman risks going bankrupt based on inheriting all those liabilities. Unfortunately, though, the government is probably going to come in again and protect the creditors.
They say no.
Well, the creditors. I don't know about the shareholders, but they come and protect the creditors, which they shouldn't do. You can't have
what they did with Fannie and Freddie.
Yes, but you can't have a capitalistic system where you say to people that loan money, don't worry about the creditworthiness of the borrowers because we're going to pay you back, because you misallocate credit.
Jonas, what aren't we talking about with Lehman that we should be focusing upon here?
That they still do not fully understand how serious this real estate crash is, and that they're so invested in it, and they think it's going to somehow magically come back. To be honest, I was short Lehman until yesterday at 3:57 p.m., where I thought they were going to come out today and shake and get everybody to relax. Look what we're doing. The stock would go up $4 or $5. That didn't happen. The stock collapsed again at the end. I guess I should have stayed short. It's because they don't really have a solution to this problem. They should have been solving this months and months ago by raising money when their stock had some value. The lower it gets, the harder it's going to be to sell equity to get out of this. I'm sort of with Peter. I don't really think it is worth anything at this point. However, that doesn't mean a buyer won't think it's worth something. Countrywide essentially was acquired. It wasn't worth anything.
Yeah, but Bob, to Jonas's point, I mean, reading what they suspected they were going to, they were very optimistic about their commercial real estate today in their statement, saying, we've got some fine commercial real estate. We think it's hit the bottom. We could make money selling that. Are they just, is this just a pipe dream on their part?
Yeah, absolutely. And trying to sort of wring some of these things off from the balance sheet of Lehman Brothers doesn't solve the essential problems, which is these are some pretty nasty assets that they're sitting on right here. Separating them from the balance sheet somehow or other, trying to build a little bit of a Chinese wall, doesn't change the very nature of the problem that you're dealing with. And that's part of the problem here. Management is just simply not redressing the problems that are out there in the real estate holdings.
Gary Kay, give us the Gary Kay spin on this one.
Well, first thing is fill in the blank. Dick Fuld is still running this company because of, and I'm just trying to figure out how this guy who has destroyed wealth misled Wall Street on the last 3 earnings reports, is still running the company. You know, we talk about the numbers all the time, but on Wall Street, intangibles, confidence, and trust count, and there is no confidence, no trust in this company and the things that come out of their mouth. And I got to tell you, it was said best by Bob. Nothing changed today except they lowered a dividend, and they said they're going to take their bad assets and spin them off. Who's going to buy them? What crazy person is going to buy them?
Let me stick up for Dick Folt for a second, Peter, because, I mean, maybe he's been working day in, day out, not even sleeping, to try and get a deal, and he's one of these people who still believes, I can do it, I can pull it off.
Liz, absolutely. If I could interject, I think that's absolutely on the money. I think you look at Dick Folt, this is a guy with a proven track record as a deal maker. The fact that we're saying that he
destroyed the company. He couldn't see this coming.
You know,
he was in the middle of it. He couldn't see it.
Go ahead, Jack.
Listen, if anybody saw this coming, they should be running their own bank on Wall Street.
I mean, I saw it coming. Where you been?
Well, the fact is the stock is down 95%.
Hold on. Let Jack finish a sentence at least. Go ahead, Jack.
What aren't we talking about that we should be talking about? The conversations that are happening right now. There's a real possibility that Neuberger Berman is worth something to someone. There are hurdles out there preventing hedge funds and private equity firms from getting involved in the bidding process for Lehman Brothers. They very well may come to that.
Gary.
Can I get back to something? Look. First off, they want to spin off their bad stuff, and they want to sell their good stuff. The whole idea behind business is keep your great assets, and they can't even do that. That's how desperate they are. And to sit there and say Dick Folt is good at what he does, last I looked, this stock has gone from 90 down to 7, and it's destroyed employee wealth and investor wealth. I go by the facts. Go ahead, Liz.
It is quite telling that we thought, analysts thought, that they were going to unload its entire stake in Neuberger Berman. This is the only part of the company that is working. This is how Lehman made things. It can earn its way out of this problem. This is a company that survived 2 world wars, a Great Depression, bad bets on a housing and credit crisis, has done it in. So how can it earn its way out of this problem? It may not be able to. HSBC was thought to maybe want to take it over. Royal Bank of Canada, Korea Development Bank, everybody backing away because they see the poison on the balance sheet.
It's the problem that what they need right now, you talk to kids, we tell them you time out. What they need is a pause, and the market ain't pausing. The market is moving so fast in one direction, usually down, that they just don't have the time for that timeout.
A lot of the assets are falling daily. Mortgage security has been falling almost every day all year. I will say, I want to be very clear, because people are going to think it's because of crookedness. It's not a crooked company. People aren't doing corrupt things. It was just kind of a delusion that real estate always goes up. That's not an evil thing. It was just a misjudgment. It wasn't like this was a big swindling.
But most people had a clue of that 6 months ago.
Assets on their books.
A lot of banks are failing because they also thought real estate only goes one way, as our consumers who bought homes thinking that they would never go down. So that's the blame. It's not that they were tricking people or anything.
Go ahead, Gary.
I want to add one thing. The reason why they're not able to sell the business is because if you look at what all these sovereign wealth funds paid for their shares when they bought into Citigroup and Merrill, Kuwait and Singapore, they're all down 30, 40, and 50%. They don't trust the financial companies anymore, and they don't want to spend their money anymore.
Quick final word, Jack. Very quick.
The reason it's not sold is because Dick Folt is holding out for a better price. That's the reason. There's a price for everything. He would have sold it by now if he was that desperate.
And these buyers are holding out for a worse price.
Bob always manages to jump in with the last word. Sorry, Jack, I tried. Here's a look at what's still ahead today on Bulls and Bears.